Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our new Severance Season 2 discussion, and we're going to talk all about Dylan here. And for good reason, this is a character who Jess and I both really love, but also somebody who I don't think we've talked enough about for a number of reasons, including the fact that we've just had two very isolated standalone episodes in a row. But Zach Cherry is great. We got him on here. We got him on Fallout. This man is having the time of his life.
And so are we, because we absolutely love him, and we'd love to have a little more Dylan this season. It looks like maybe we're going to be having a little bit more coming up. I mean, the story that we have had with him has been really strong, especially what's going on with Innie Dylan and his wife, Gretchen. They seemingly are having more and more of an intimate relationship coming up. I mean, are we going to be in a situation where Gretchen is really falling for Innie Dylan to the point that maybe she even considers severing herself to be able to be with him? We are missing Irving now. Our 4 is a 3.
Yeah. I think there's this other interesting question that comes from that as well, which is this idea of, is Lumen going to actively want Gretchen to sever herself? And I think the more and more we think about Dylan as a character right now, the more and more I'm starting to think like, this might actually be the case. There may be a lot of benefit that comes with them doing that.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of theories out there already that she's already working for Lumen, that maybe she's a security guard or along those types of lines. But I feel like the benefits would really be there for Lumen to get Gretchen in there as well. I mean, overall, it feels like Lumen's overall want is to have the world severed.
They certainly want whatever works for their benefit, which is better employees completing the jobs that they want. Like, it's easy to sit here and say world domination because whatever they want at the end of this, like, let's be honest, this is some real pinky in the brain level take over the world stuff. But how they go about it, their end goals, the specifics, like, those are the mysteries. But we're going to get so much more into Dylan, into Gretchen, what could be happening. Before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we know there's only a couple of episodes of Severance left this season, but obviously there's going to be more beyond this. And in addition to giving you reviews, theories on Severance, we're also covering The White Lotus, Yellow Jackets. This is a very good time if you love very good TV.
Absolutely. So hit that subscribe button, stick with us. And also you can support us further on our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. We are covering over there exclusively with weekly reviews, The Pit, which is airing on Max, and also coming up, Bosch Legacy. It's in its final season, and we're going to be covering that also with weekly reviews only on our Patreon. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go back in time a little bit here to when Gretchen first turned up on the scene.
Okay, beep, bop, 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 boop. Okay, we're back in the past.
All right, we're in the past here. Milchick informs Dylan as to some of what may be coming as a reward system. And eventually we do see Gretchen turn up at the company. I think there's a lot of questions to get into here from the get-go, but I think one of the biggest ones I have is, how exactly did Lumen set this up in the first place with Gretchen? Is it just a case of, okay, Milchick shows up at their place with the pineapple for Gretchen and it's sort of like, here, I got this idea. And they have to have some sort of personal relationship because she refers to him as Seth rather than Milchick, and that implies some familiarity.
Yeah, we saw the pineapple on the table. Outie Dylan knows what's going on. So does Gretchen. She does refer to him as Seth. It does feel like she's probably working for the company. I mean, it's possible that Milchick came in and was like, hey, I'm Seth. Let's, go on first names. Let's make it a little more casual. So maybe she's feeling a little more likely to actually do this.
Yeah, I think.
But I think she's working for the company.
There's a good possibility of that, because I think there's a real risk in having somebody who is a total outsider going into Lumen and taking part in something like this. Now, I know that there are certain things that they are and aren't supposed to talk about, that their conversations are monitored, but that may just sort of be a mirror in order to make it so that any Dylan does not have any real idea as to what's going on here, that he's meant to be convinced that, okay, this is really Audi Gretchen. Gretchen doesn't have anything to do with this. It's sort of like rules for thee and not rules for we. And he has to sort of adhere to some of that. It's about an illusion. And I think that's a lot of what Lumen is. It's about creating an illusion for the innies on the outside of the company. It's about creating this illusion that Severance is this good and beneficial thing for the betterment of the world.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, is this also an experiment? We know that there's a lot of experiments that are going on here. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
a reward for Innie Dylan for doing good work that he gets to see Audi Gretchen come in this sort of safe space for the two of them. But is this also a test for Innie Dylan? Is this a test for Gretchen if she could be somebody that might be able to come into the severed program? And they're just testing the waters with it, this sort of like, what can we do to bring Gretchen in? Oh, we know that her relationship on the outside is not that great,
Mhm.
but maybe we can make a connection on the inside, since we've seen Helly and Mark make a connection on the inside, which seemingly made them better workers for a short period of time. Is it possible that if we can get Gretchen severed and we can get her in here, that Dylan will also then be a better worker?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really two big benefits for severing Gretchen at this point. If you are Lumen, I'll do a little bit of a story time here. So many years ago in Toronto, I went on this press tour for a very much now canceled USA show called Covert Affairs. But on that press tour, one of the things that they talked about was that a lot of the characters that were there, and this is one of those, spycraft shows where you're looking into bad people and all of that, but a lot of the things that were talked about was at the agency. There's a lot of agents who end up dating each other, and that's
Mhm.
something that's actually kind of encouraged because it's a lot easier if you're somebody who understands what it means to share secrets. And this kind of goes into what you were just saying, where if Lumen can have it where, okay, we've got any Mark, any Helly in some sort of relationship so that they're actually eager to see each other at work. And this will make them more inspired to want to work together, which is why we're okay with them just piecing out and going and hooking up somewhere in the middle of a workday. And we're not going to stop them. That, okay, maybe this is the same thing then with Dylan and Gretchen, where they're going to work really well because they're going to just be happy to be there because they still want them to do whatever sort of sinister work it is that they're doing that they don't really understand, but they want to make them feel good while they're at their jobs. And it's not because they care about them, it's because they're just thinking of this cost benefit analysis.
Now we know that Lumen has their, no fooling around policy, and they try to make it that, romances at workplace are a no-no.
Mhm.
But do they really feel that way? Or is it really just sort of a, let's put this rule here because people want what they can't have? So then
Mhm.
you have everything that's going on or was going on with Bert and Irving, and everything that's going on with Mark and Helly. And now it's like we've got Gretchen in here as well. And yes, this is not a love story by any means. This is not what the show is about. It's
No.
not about couples and love and romance. Yes, there's some of that on the show, and that's great, but it's more about controlling people, and you can easily control people with emotions. That's how a lot of people have been put into the severed program in the first place. Like, look at
Yeah.
Mark. He's grieving the loss of his wife. He can't handle living in the Audi world anymore. He's decided to do this to try to deal with his emotions. And, they're trying to control everybody in there with these romances. So it makes sense then that maybe they would want Gretchen in there to be able to make sure that Dylan continues to be a good worker. We watched, recently the whole episode where we had the Watchers
Yeah.
that were watching the four of them that all looked like the people they were watching. So, what is Dylan putting his numbers in his box to do to help whatever he's working on? Because if we've got Mark working on Cold Harbor with Gemma, the other three, obviously now minus Irving, the other two are working on something as well. So is it also another person? And can Gretchen come in and help that? Or are they going to switch it out that now Gretchen is going to be Dylan's person that he will be working on?
I think it's something that they're going to play around with a little bit if they continue to have Gretchen show up. And I think this is where things get really, really complicated, because this is the other big tinfoil hat motivation here, why they need Gretchen to be at Lumen at this point. Dylan found the poster.
Yes.
And we have everything that Irving seemingly left behind. And I know this is a story that the show has seemingly abandoned for a little while here, but I don't buy for a second that it is over. I just think that Gretchen right now is such a perfect distraction for Lumen. I know that they've said, oh, there's no cameras, nobody's watching. They had an actual human for starters, and they're watching everybody in Helena. But beyond all that, I think that they still have plenty of ways to know that things are awry. And if they know that, okay, Irving may have left something behind for Dylan, they can't have Dylan looking into this, because whatever was going on, that Irving, any and outy sense, we've already talked about him maybe being a detective, like whatever he was working on, if Dylan starts to look at it, one, that's bad for him and them, and two, he's not doing the work anymore. So we just need him to forget about whatever this was with Irving. And if Gretchen's showing up all the time, that's just a great way to ensure, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So Apple TV doesn't release any promos for Severance or really any of their stuff, but there is a little bit of a synopsis for what is coming up. And it does seem like there's going to be some kind of consequences or some sort of something that's going to be rolling in for Dylan. So is it that he's going to continue working on Irving's hallway with the arrow, which we all have a little bit more information on, but of course Dylan doesn't? Or, is it going to be maybe his relationship with Gretchen, that maybe they're like, okay, listen, we were okay with her coming in and talking to you and giving you a little bit of information, but we're not okay with you guys having this romance. So we're going to take it from you, so that it does start to get him into a point that he will get back to work and he will work hard to be able to earn back that relationship that he now has built something with.
Yeah, Lumen, these are not good people. They're people who are going to take things from you and basically make you almost beg to have them back,
right?
Because they want to constantly throw incentives at you. So it's like, okay, that's one strong possibility. You also have to think a lot about, okay, like, how's Gretchen feeling about everything that she's going through at this point? And like, that's another complicated variable you're throwing in here as well.
Yeah, because from what we've seen, she seems like she's not that happy on the outside world with Dylan. Dylan is really struggling as an outie, trying to find other work that wasn't, part of the Severed program. He was having doors shut in his face. He couldn't find anything. He's being really short with her. Like, their relationship feels like it's just not really there the way that it probably once was. And now that we've seen her building something romantic with Innie Dylan, it feels like she's just going to want more of that. Because for her, I mean, yeah, she's a mom, a wife, she's working, she's got all these things going on. But what is there for Gretchen? And that fills her soul, sort of thing. And it's that romantic love that seemingly is getting lost with her outie husband. But I could see her kind of feeling like, well, Innie Dylan is the same. It's still my husband.
Yeah.
It's just a different version of the same man. And, there's of course questions on, is that true or is that not true? Is this really still the same person? Isn't it? That's all up for debate. But for her, she might be just justifying it, being like, well, it's still my husband. It's just this other version of him. So it's perfectly okay for me to have this more romantic relationship with my Innie Dylan, because it's still Dylan and it's still my guy.
I think it's just so complicated because of this idea of, okay, my guy on the outside world is just acting totally different. And if guilt ever does start to like drive her up the wall, she may think that being an Innie or having an Innie is a way to get around this, because then the Innies can be happy. And I do think at this point, and we've seen this with Mark basically from the beginning of the show, but one of the real ideas of the Severance program in general is just that I want to find a way to take away some of the pain. And I think that goes into what we learned about Cobell on this past episode too, where she was this this prodigy, this person who was brilliant, but at the same time, like, she was miserable in this decaying town. And I think a lot of what drove her was this idea of, okay, here's something where at least at work you can be somebody totally different. You can take away some of this pain, but the reality is that that's not a solution to the problems. That's just a salve, something that Lumen very much likes, that they can then use to convince you that everything is actually better when you're just putting a band-aid on a situation that you actually need, metaphorical surgery here to fix.
Absolutely. Everything with them is just the dangling carrot. Oh, you have pain? We can take away that pain. Oh, you want love? We got love. Whatever it is you want, it's on the inside.
I think that the most important thing that we have to remember in these final episodes of this season is that there is a very severe chance that everything is going to fall apart at Lumen, because we know the reintegration process has been going on with Mark. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of, okay, him, Cobell, what she's going to want from him. But because of all this swirling chaos, what little they have on the inside becomes all the more important, because they need to establish like a modicum of consistency, and having Dylan still there, having Helly still there, because if they're ever going to be able to get any Mark back, because Cold Harbor's still not done, obviously, and I don't think they're going to stop until Cold Harbor is done, they have to present him with something that he feels like is going to be an okay working relationship. And that may mean, for Dylan at least, okay, we got to make sure that this guy is emotionally stable enough. And that means, even if we're not giving him Gretchen, the promise or the hope that, oh, Gretchen is still coming, but this also brings in the heartbreaking possibility of maybe Gretchen does end up deciding, I'm done, but they just keep telling Innie Dylan that she's going to be coming back, and he's just going to take their word for it.
Yeah, I mean, this show is devastating, and Lumen does dangle things that aren't exactly what it seems. So, is it possible? Yes, of course. Dylan is really the only one that they probably think they have some sort of control over at this point. They don't know what is going on with Mark. They know that Helly is a rebel, and she always has been, and she's very difficult to work with.
Yes.
But Dylan has been somebody that has been working towards waffle parties and egg bars and whatever else he's able to get as a reward. They opened up this possibility of being able to see his outie wife. It's been working really well. It's been getting him back to work, even to the point where we have seen in the past where they were all like, okay, we need to like kind of move into the direction of getting some answers. So like, I'm real close on this one, guys. I just need to finish off what I'm working on right now. The rewards really seem to motivate him. And I think the idea of Gretchen coming in, or Gretchen being severed and coming in, that he could have full work days with her, is going to be something that would be a reward that he would really want.
Yeah, in the end here, we just have to be aware that Dylan's going to have something huge in the last couple of episodes here, because he's literally the only normal person within the MDR team that they have left. And they're going to find whatever way they can to get through to him, at least, to make sure that he can continue to do the job, or potentially encourage Mark to continue to do the job, with a big asterisk on whether or not Mark actually ever comes back.
Right.
But that's where we are right now with Dylan, with Gretchen on Severance Season 2. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Gretchen is going to sever herself? Do you think that she's going to have just a lot of guilt and just never show up again? This could go all sorts of ways, but give us your thoughts, your theories in the comments. And hit that subscribe button for more, and you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering there exclusively the Pit on Max. We have Bosch Legacy coming up. Thank you guys so much for your support. We will see you here next time.